This problem's a little bit different. We have a traffic island in the shape of a triangle with a perimeter of 66 feet. We're told that the sides are consecutive integers and then asked how long the longest side is. So our answer is going to look a little bit different. And this time we're not told how many integers. We have to kind of figure that out on our own. What we are told is that we're looking at a triangle. Well, if we have a triangle, then we have three sides. And our three sides are consecutive integers. And if they're consecutive integers, then they are going to follow the same rule that we saw before. Where they're 1 unit apart on a number line, right? T, then t plus 1. We add one more, we get t plus 2 to find the third side. Our equation, this one's a little bit different, right? We don't have that relationship. We have the word perimeter. So it's important that we start to recognize what perimeter means. And where you have to be careful is a lot of times what I see is students who believe that perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, which is the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle, but isn't perimeter. Perimeter you should think of as just being the distance around the outside of an object. So in this case, the distance around the outside of the traffic island. So we have our first side plus our second side plus our third side, because that's perimeter, right? It's the distance all the way around the outside of the object. It's the sum of the sides of the object that we're looking at. And the perimeter in this case is equal to 66 feet. And so if we go from there and we look at creating our sides, we have t, or our equation, t plus 1 plus t plus 2 is equal to 66, right? Our first side plus our second side plus our third side equals 66. Combining like terms, we get 3t plus 3 equals 66. Subtracting 3 from both sides, we get 3t equals 33. Dividing both sides by 3, we get t equals 11. If you've noticed, I keep going back and deleting the capital T that shows up as default with Word and PowerPoint, but it's important that our variables remain the same all the way through a problem. So it's not okay to go back and forth between lowercase and capital, because there's a lot of times when we look at two different variables and one might be a lowercase t and one a capital T, and they have different meanings. So if we look at this, our normal answer would be to say the three sides are 11, 12, and 13 feet. But as we look at this, we need to consider whether or not that is truly what we're looking at. Our sides are consecutive integers. How long is the longest side? The longest side is 13 feet. A lot of times people would just be done. I'm done with my problem. But it is important that you check, because if you haven't noticed, there's a mistake in the work that we've done. And normally there's nothing that jumps out at you when you've made a mistake. It's not until you go to check that you start to see that something is wrong. We need to look at whether or not 11 plus 12 plus 13 is equal to 66. And if we look at this, 11 plus 12 plus 13 is 36. And 36 does not equal 66. So our check doesn't work. Somewhere in here there's a mistake. And it's important to notice that there's nothing that jumps out at you when you've made a mistake. It's not till you check your work that you start to see it. So as we go through this process, 3t plus 3, we need to subtract 3 from both sides. That should be 63, not 66, which means that t is actually equal to 21. And our longest side is not 13 feet, but 23 feet. And now if we go back and we check, We're going to ask ourselves whether 21 plus 22 plus 23 equals 66, and yes, it does. It's important that as you approach your check, you approach it with the assumption that you've made a mistake, and then you try to prove to yourself that you haven't. And that'll help you to catch the little mistakes that people make all the time that are normal and natural and don't jump out at you until you're really looking for them.